Hey guys, it's Kinsey again. Welcome to my garden show. Come on, I'll show you how my husband works.
Hey guys, hope you're all having a fantastic day. Welcome back to Willow Creek. My husband had jokes on this day, and for this video, it is just going to be a little bit of a smorgasbord of everything that I did this weekend. So, we are starting off at my garden. As you can see, we are finishing some of the trellising that needed to be done here. And I also went ahead and got another load of sheep manure to put on this row specifically. We had already done one other load on the other rows. So, for those of you that are new here, I have a brand new 40 by 60 garden with 18 3 by 16 rows. Now, I've never had an in-ground garden before, but I've done plenty of container gardening at my previous property. My husband and I are in the process of building our dream home. So, this will be my brand new forever garden, and it is huge. It's a lot of getting used to just because of being so used to growing things in grow bags. This is a very new transition for me. So, I'm just trying to make sure that I go the extra mile, start off with really good soil and get as much of it done now so that I don't have to deal with these things later. Because here very soon, our time together is going to be spent finishing our new property and our new house. So that's going to take up a lot of our time. So we're on this particular day, we're just trying to get the trellising done. So for the first 6 rows, all of these will be trellised, and then we end up putting up 2 more rows of trellising on the other rows. And we did that on a previous day. I thought I recorded that, but I don't think that my phone was unfortunately recording the whole process. So there will be 8 trellised rows, and we may also end up adding more trellised rows next spring. But for now, I just kind of want to give myself a head start so that come next spring, I will at least have some things to work with in the process of doing all the house stuff. So, my husband and I, we did end up getting 4 16-foot panels that I had already had. And then we had a bunch of these 8-foot panels, and we're just putting them together so that the rows themselves are 16 feet long. All of these rows are going to be my tomato and tomatillo rows. And for anybody that's new to gardening, you typically can do tomato plants every 2 feet. So if I do the 16-foot rows for my 3 by 16 rows themselves, that means that I can put 8 tomato plants per row. So I feel like that will work out really, really good for me. And that's just kind of what I've been going with. So we are just getting some trellising finished up. We end up adding more sheep manure, and then this is basically done. And I wanted to ask what you guys would recommend to cover the rows with for winter time. I've debated. I've went back and forth. Should I use straw? Should I use leaves? Should I buy the covers because they're a little bit pricey? But I would love to know what you guys use to cover your garden with for winter and if you have any good recommendations. And then here is what the garden looked like after the trellising was done. We weeded and added all the compost. So, next, I wanted to share a delicious treat that I have been making the past couple weeks. This has become a family favorite, and I don't know why I had never thought of it before. So, basically, what we are going to do is we are going to dehydrate apples, but we are going to be adding vanilla, brown sugar, and cinnamon to these and dehydrating them. And it turns into basically like a glaze over the apple, and they are just so incredibly good, you guys. It's a really, really good, like, sweet treat. If you're like me, I am a sweets fanatic. I love sweet stuff, and that can be a really bad thing. So, these are really nice, borderline healthy, and I promise your family and your kids are going to love them. So, basically, what I'm doing is I'm just chopping the apples. You can do as thin or as thick as you would like. These are some of the apples that we bought together at the Dutchman store. If you have not seen that video, I will leave it up above. But then I'm just adding the vanilla, the cinnamon, and brown sugar. You can add as much or as little as you would like. And I'm giving that a really, really good mix. Now, I was sprinkling this stuff on these apples a previous time, and it just became really messy. And then I was like, why don't I just put them in the bowl and combine all of it together? So that is what I am doing this time, and it worked out fantastic. So I am just lining my dehydrator trays, and then I believe these took about 6.5 hours on 165. So I ended up getting about 3 trays full, and as you can see, my family had already gotten into them before they were even done. But I'm just pulling all of these off and storing them in a little Ziploc bag. You could put them in a jar if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. They don't last long, but my gosh, you guys, they were so, so good. So, we are also going to be making some applesauce together later in the video. I just didn't have time to do the whole process on this day, but I still wanted to work on some things that needed done. So, I decided to make some garlic pucks. I had garlic at the house that was really needing used up. And if you're like me, peeling garlic for your cooking is just a daunting process. And what I personally like to do is when I have the energy to do it and I'm feeling motivated, I peel a bunch of garlic and I run it through my food processor. You could use a blender or chop it up really finely, however you would like to do it. Use what you have on hand. But I mince it down really good, and then I go back and I scrape the edges down really good, make sure everything's really finely minced. And I like to make these into pucks, and then I will put them on parchment paper and par freeze them so that whenever I go to put them in a Ziploc baggie, they don't all stick together. But this is really, really nice to have on hand so that you don't have to peel garlic every single time you want it. Now, unfortunately, I did miss the window to grow my own garlic. I've never grown garlic myself, but I just missed the windows for the planting and I don't particularly have time to do that. But I'm going to make a promise to myself to utilize the bulk garlic that I buy every single time and really, really, really try to do this each time. Maybe we could do like a bulk day of it just so that it doesn't go to waste. And then I always have this on hand for my cooking because it is so incredibly convenient to have. So I got that stuck in my freezer. And then my daughter had friends over. So we decided to go out and roast some hot dogs and make s'mores. So here's just some footage of that. And it was so incredibly good. And then by the time we got done with that, the garlic pucks were frozen enough for me to store in a bag. And I accidentally stored them in a just regular storage bag. If you're going to put them in your freezer, make sure you put them in a freezer bag. Okay, so it is officially the next day, and I am going to make some applesauce with you guys. So, this is the way that I prep my apples. I just go ahead and get them peeled, and then I use that little dicer chopper thing that I got at Walmart to cut the slices. I go ahead and get them in my crock pot to start cooking. And then I added 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, a cup and a half of brown sugar, a splash of vanilla, and a splash of cinnamon. Now, the recipe that I am going to put down in the description for you guys that I was following did not call for cinnamon or the vanilla. I added it, so it's totally optional. The sugar is also optional. You could add a little bit less or a little bit more. And the recipe also said to go with about 7 to 9 pounds of apples, and mine was more in the 7 pound mark. So after I get all of that stuff in there, I just continue to let it cook in my crock pot and then I go ahead and immersion blend it whenever all of the apples have softened. I was trying to show earlier how thick it had gotten. Now, if you want yours a little bit thicker or thinner, just cook it longer or less time. So now I'm just going through and filling up some of these jelly jars. We are going to be making a bunch more applesauce together, but on this day, I just decided to do a smaller batch. So I'm getting all of the jelly jars filled up. And for the applesauce, you want to leave a 1/2 inch of headspace. So I already did that. I went through and made sure the headspace was good. I did forget to debubble these, so make sure you debubble them, but they don't last long in my house anyway, so all is good. So I didn't want to get my big canner out, so I'm just using a smaller stock pot. This doesn't have a rack with it, so I'm just using a towel. And I'm getting the stock pot filled up with water. Make sure you leave 1 to 2 inches of water above the jars. And then here they are all coming out of the canner after they had processed for 20 minutes. Homemade applesauce is so incredibly good, you guys. It's very simple to make, and I promise you and your family will love it. And then I just wanted to share with you guys a recipe that I created probably like 5 months ago on accident. I'm sure there is an actual name for this. I just threw everything together and oh my gosh, it's so incredibly good, you guys. So you're going to want to start sauteing some onions and peppers in your pan. And then I am just dicing up well, not dicing up, I guess cutting up I believe you pronounce it kibasca sausage. Now, you could use any type of linked meat that you wanted to in this. This is just what my family and I both prefer. So I just go ahead and start getting this cut up while my onions and peppers are sauteing, and then I go ahead and add that to the pan to start developing some really good color on it, and I allow that to cook. And then I go ahead and just lightly season it with garlic. I try to season at every point if possible. So that's what I'm adding. I also went ahead and got some penne noodles boiling, and as you can see, all of this has really, really, really nice color on it at this point. So I'm just giving that a good stir, and then I am taking some pork broth that I had in my refrigerator from the pulled pork that we made together. If you have not seen that, I will link it above. You could use chicken stock, you could use veggie stock, it doesn't matter. Whatever kind of stock you want, go ahead and throw it in there. And then I'm just adding a little bit of cream to this and combining that really good. And my husband and I both agreed that we preferred the pork stock over the chicken stock. It just gave it really good flavor. So then I'm going in with some Italian seasoning, and then that is some homegrown, home dehydrated basil. I'm adding some pepper, and then I end up adding more garlic. And you can season this however you would like. If there's more seasonings that I didn't add, feel free to add them. And then I'm just taking 2 handfuls of a mozzarella provolone mix of cheese and then a couple dashes of Parmesan and letting that combine and start to thicken up really good. And it just starts to develop this like really good cream base. So once that's thickened up, I start adding in the penne noodles. And then I'm just gonna let this simmer away on my stove at a really, really low temperature and thicken up. And oh my gosh, you guys, it is so good. I highly recommend giving this a try. So simple, so good. My family absolutely loved it. So that wraps up this week's video, you guys. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week. And as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.